السلام عليكم. رجاء أخذ مقاعدكم. Please take your seats. Could I kindly please ask you to take your seats? Thank you. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to the last day of the Private Sector Forum 2023. The last 2 days have been really informative, and the last day of PCF 2023 is here to offer even more insightful and informative sessions. We will start off with unlocking IsDB member countries' potential to tap into the vast and expanding global halal industry, followed by transitioning towards a sustainable future through PPPs. We would ask our audience to be interactive and to keep your questions ready for our speakers. There's translation available in Arabic, English, and French, and the devices are available at the back. We will start off with the first side event for the day, unlocking IsDB member countries' potential to tap into the vast and expanding global halal industry. And it gives me pleasure to invite Ms. Nof Ahmed Eid Al-Harbi to lead the side event. Please.
Your Excellencies, our respected guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The main objective of our event today is to share experiences, success stories, and best practices in promoting halal industry, and to discuss ways and means and innovative solutions to promote investments and intra-trade opportunities in halal sectors among member countries and at a global level. With pleasure, we will start our event today with a high-level opening session. I would like to welcome Mr. Amir Bukovic, Acting Director General Global Practices and Partnerships in the Islamic Development Bank, to present his welcoming remarks. Mr. Amir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning. Excellencies, Dr. Hussein Kavazovic, Reisul Ulema of Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, and Serbia, Mr. Fahad Al-Nuhait, CEO of Halal Product Development Corporation, HBDC, a subsidiary company of Public Investment Fund in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Ms. Zainabal Shamsuna Ahmed, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Nigeria, Mr. Peri Warjio, Governor of Central Bank of Indonesia, Mr. Hairul Arifin Sahari, CEO of Halal Development Corporation Malaysia, Mr. Muhammadu Diko Ladan, CEO of Darul Halal Nigeria, esteemed moderators, panelists, dear guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, allow me first to express my sincere thanks and appreciation for accepting our invitation to participate in this event themed Unlocking ISDB member countries' potential to tap into the vast and expanding global halal industry, organized as a component of the Private Sector Forum on the sidelines of ISDB annual meeting. The organization of this event is a testimony of a strong belief of the ISDB in the importance of halal business in fostering the social and economic development of our member countries and non-member and Muslim communities in non-member countries. I would like to thank Excellencies, His Excellency the President of ISDB, His Excellency the Vice President of Operations, and the CEOs of our private entities, ICD, ITFC, and ISEC, for their support to organization of this event. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the management and staff of Halal Product Development Corporation, HPDC, for partnering with us in organizing this event, which is a starting point for a long-standing cooperation, inshallah, between our two institutions. We are happy that we will sign today at the 4 p.m. during the closing session and press conference of the ISDB annual meeting an MOU between ISDB and HPDC. And I would like to invite you all to attend this signing ceremony. Our event today aims to share experiences, success stories, and best practices in promoting the halal industry, and to discuss ways and means and innovative solutions to promote investment and intra-trade opportunities in halal sector among the ISDB member countries and at the global level as well. In fact, our discussion on the vast potential and opportunities in investment and intra-trade in halal industry is timely, as the interest in halal products and services has grown tremendously in the recent years around the globe in Muslim and non-Muslim countries. Most Muslims prefer certified halal foods and products as a religious obligation, while non-Muslims they cite hygiene, sanitation, quality, and safety as the main reason for purchasing halal products. The State of Global Islamic Economy 2022 report estimates that the world's 1.9 billion Muslims spend the equivalent of $2 trillion in 2021 across the halal food, pharmaceutical, cosmetics, fashion, travel, and media recreation sectors. This spending reflects 8.9% year-on-year growth from 2020, despite the continued uncertainty related to COVID-19 pandemic. And the global Muslim spending on halal economy sectors is forecast to grow by further 9.1% in the years 2022-2023, as we see a return to pre-pandemic spending levels in all sectors except travel. The food sector is the largest component, with spending on halal food by Muslims valued at $1.27 trillion in 2021 and projected to reach $1.67 trillion in 2025. The growing demand for halal products and services will create more opportunities for investment in halal industry as well as avenues for export and intra-trade of halal products among member countries and Muslim communities in non-member countries. It will also enable the creation of new chances for more halal entrepreneurs to participate in the industry and for companies to expand into halal products and services, and hence enter new markets, generate more revenues, and create additional job opportunities. However, the development of sustainable halal industry in ISDB member countries requires the adoption of enabling ecosystem at the national level, including long-term strategies, supporting policies, qualified human capital, institutional framework for standardization, certification, accreditation, and awareness program for the various stakeholders and consumers, as well as use of new technologies in order to increase efficiency in halal manufacturing and distribution process and improve traceability, visibility, and consumer trust. This halal ecosystem would be accompanied by cooperation initiatives among ISDB member countries aiming at sharing experiences, exchanging information and knowledge, and capacity building programs. Many ISDB member countries are making conscious efforts to develop their halal economies and capture the potential halal market. Malaysia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are among the most active nations and have clear vision of becoming hubs for the global halal trade. Even non-majority Muslim countries like Thailand, Japan, South Korea aims to position themselves as key players in the halal market. Notably, Australia and Brazil are among the top halal meat and poultry suppliers to countries in the Middle East. We are happy today to have speakers from high-level representatives of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Nigeria, Bosnia, CEOs of leading national and international public and private sector companies operating in promotion of halal industry, chairmen of Islamic banks, leaders of OIC specialized institutions, and experts in halal economy to enlighten us on various opportunities and challenges facing this fast-growing industry. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ISDB established a Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with a mandate to spearhead the efforts supporting the expansion of halal industry, among others, such as Islamic finance, science, technology, innovation, through providing comprehensive ecosystem development solutions, leveraging capabilities of relevant partner agencies, international organizations, and ISDB Group. Among the flagship initiatives of ISDB Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur is a collaboration with Halal Development Corporation of Malaysia, whose CEO is with us today, to undertake the halal industry ecosystem assessment with the objective to identify key critical components of halal industry, the best practices and gap analysis within 22 countries of the world. ISDB, through its Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur and the regional hub in Ankara, is collaborating with government of Azerbaijan, represented by Ministry of Economy as the coordinating body, to support development of country's halal industry ecosystem through the development of master plan that serves as a strategic roadmap to unlock country potential to tap into the global halal market. So these are just examples of our activities through our KL Center of Excellence, and we invite you to explore possibilities of collaboration with ISDB and our Center of Excellence in Malaysia. Together, not only with ISDB, but also with other institutions in the halal industry, such as OIC institution SMIC, which is also represented by its CEO, and ICDT, who are also with us on the annual meeting today. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to reiterate the commitment of ISDB to support the growth of halal industry, given its significant and fast-growing scale, as well its strategic importance to member countries and the world at large. In this context, I would call upon the OIC relevant institutions, the national public and private halal organizations, and halal experts to cooperate with ISDB in launching concrete initiatives for supporting halal industry and facilitating trade and investment in halal products and services. In particular, there is a need to address two important challenges facing the halal economy, namely financing the halal industry and effective management of halal supply chain. Regarding the financing of halal industry, MSMEs face a combination of access to finance and business-related challenges, which directly impact their financial viability. Therefore, it is important to consider the supply-side elements of financing gaps, such as provision of relevant financing instruments, and to address demand-side elements by supporting the development of halal business, who are in effect all potential Islamic finance users, and they become more financially viable with this and resilient. The role of Islamic finance in development of halal economy could be enhanced further by increasing support for adoption of digital payments, integrated halal advisory and marketplace, and enhancing current Islamic finance offering through innovative Islamic finance solutions such as fintech, blended finance, alternative finance, and Islamic social finance. As far as halal supply chain is concerned, there is a need to adopt an ecosystem approach where all stakeholders involved in the chain, including standards and certification agencies, suppliers, manufacturers, transporters, warehouses, retailers, and customers, are aware of their responsibility and play an active role in ensuring compliance with halal standards and therefore trust and confidence in halal products. This will require a business to develop strong relationship with suppliers and other supply chain partners. In this regard, digital technologies like blockchain and e-commerce platforms can improve the connectivity between the halal supply chain stakeholders, increase the trade and export opportunity for halal manufacturers, and enhance the traceability of halal products, and hence building consumer trust. I reiterate my sincere appreciation for your active participation to this event and look forward for fruitful outcomes and recommendations. This halal event we are in IDB very passionately involved with, and the recommendations that you would be giving to us would guide us in the years ahead of us to enhance the industry and give more space for development of halal industry worldwide. I thank you for your kind attention and wish you successful deliberations today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amr. I would like now to invite Mr. Fahad Al-Nahid, Chief Executive Officer, Halal Products Development Company, HPDC, which is fully owned by the Public Investment Fund of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Mr. Fahad, the floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we begin the opening session of the forum's third day, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome you all to what will surely be a tremendous value in unlocking the potential of the fast and expanding of the global halal industry. I would also like to take the moment to sincerely thank the visionary team who have made this year private sector forum a remarkable success, allowing us all the opportunity to connect, learn from one another, and explore sustainable solutions for the pressing matters of today. The halal industry has increasingly evolved throughout time to encompass not only food and beverage, but it's also cosmetic, pharmaceutical, and other ingredients. As the concept of halal has spread worldwide, the halal industry has adequately served the global community thanks to its assurance of high-quality products and adherence to clean, gluten-free production standards. IsDB member countries represent the core consumer markets of halal products and one which can drive the economic prosperity for all. In recognition of the value of a global halal industry and under the vision of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Public Investment Fund has established HPDC as an entity to invest in the development of the halal products industry. Throughout its operation, HPDC strives to strengthen the local halal products industry within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, while concurrently advancing the global halal production ecosystem. Domestically, HPDC aims to invest in all stages of the halal products sector, capitalizing open opportunities to achieve sustainable integration across Saudi Arabian supply chain. From a global perspective, we strive to position the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as a center of halal products industry, which contributes to a multilateral growth in target markets. We also aim to support knowledge exchange, innovation within the vital sector worldwide. In October 2022, HPDC signed a historic joint venture agreement with Brazil's BRF, one of the world's largest food companies who have presence in 117 countries worldwide. This partnership not only a demonstration of HPDC initiative to strengthen the halal sector, but it's also a purposeful measure which will improve and enhance the halal poultry sector in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. With HPDC participation in a private sector forum, we seek to build partnership with key stakeholders in halal sector within and outside Saudi Arabia. In conclusion, I would like to express my sincerest desire for the success of this forum, the betterment of Islamic communities across the globe, and advancement of humanity as a whole. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fahad. I would like now to invite His Excellency, Mr. Hussein Kavazovic, Rais al-Ulama of Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, and Serbia. I would like to highlight that His Excellency will be speaking in Arabic, so if anyone needs any translation devices, it's at the back of the event. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السعادة والفضيلة، الإخوة والأخوات الأعزاء، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وبعد. فأحمد الله سبحانه وتعالى وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يشرفني أن أتيحت لي الفرصة لأرحب بكم جميعا في هذه الجلسة العامة حول موضوع تحرير الإمكانات الدول الأعضاء في بنك الإسلامي للتنمية وفرص الاستفادة من الصناعة الحلال العالمية. وأعرب عن خالص شكري على هذه الدعوة للمشاركة في هذا الحدث البالغ الأهمية حول الصناعة الحلال. إنني إذ أتولى القيادة الدينية لمسلمي البوسنة والهرسك الذين يعيشون في بيئة أوروبية أدرك تماما التحديات التي تواجهنا، ونحن نسعى من أجل محافظة على هويتنا الدينية والثقافية والعرقية. إن قضية الحلال تعتبر إحدى المحددات المهمة للهوية الإسلامية في كل مكان في العالم، بما في ذلك نحن المسلمون في أوروبا. إن العيش الحلال مطلب أساسي في ديننا الحنيف، ينبع من أعماق كياننا المسلم. والعيش حلال يعني العيش بشكل أخلاقي وصحي مع التقيد بكل مبادئ ديننا الأخلاقية، وهو المطلب الأهم الذي أمر به سبحانه وتعالى رسله والناس أجمعين في كل زمان، كما جاء في هاتين الآيتين الكريمتين: يا أيها الرسل كلوا من طيبات واعملوا صالحا إني بما تعملون عليم. يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. إن الاستماع لهذه الكلمات غير كاف، بل يجب علينا جميعا نحن المسلمون أن نتحد في أفكارنا وجهودنا دائما وفي كل مكان من أجل تحقيقها. يجب أن تكون أعمالنا الفردية والجماعية متوافقة مع الحلال، ويجب أن يصبح أسلوب الحياة هذا واقعنا الذي نعيشه والطريق الذي نسلكه حتى يقودنا إلى الغاية المرجوة، وهي أن نعيش جميعا في سعادة وطمأنينة. إن العيش الحلال بالنسبة للمسلم ليس نزعة عابرة، بل هو أمر من الله عز وجل. فالحلال والحرام مفهومان أساسيان في ديننا الحنيف، وهما مرشدنا لاتخاذ القرارات الصالحة لنا ولمجتمعنا وللبيئة التي نعيش فيها. إن من أهم جهودنا التي نبذلها على مر العصور هو كيف نكسب رضا الله عز وجل ونحقق الرخاء في المجتمع والسعادة الشخصية للفرد. كان الناس على مر العصور يسعون لجعل الدروس والعظات الإلهية مرئية واضحة، وهذا ما يؤكده رسولنا صلى الله عليه وسلم إذ يقول: إن الله يحب أن يرى أثر نعمته على عبده. ومن هذا المنطلق فإن العيش الحلال يعني السير على الطريق الذي توجد فيه علامات وتوجه إيقاع حياتنا وأسلوبها بكل ما فيها من فترات التسارع والتباطؤ والتوقف. إن العيش الحلال يعني الصبر على التحديات الحياة والثبات والاستقامة وبذل الجهد المستمر من أجل العيش وفقا لمتطلبات الدين. الحلال أسلوب حياة يتطلب من الناس محافظة على حياة الصحية الفاضلة والاهتمام بالبيئة وبناء العلاقات الاجتماعية الصحية بلا جشع وسوء الاستغلال للناس والطبيعة. واليوم بعد كل ما عشناه من تجارب مع الأنظمة الاقتصادية المختلفة التي كانت في الأساس تستند سوء الاستغلال الهائل للموارد الأرض والجشع الوراء الربح، يبدو لنا جلياً أنه يجب علينا العودة إلى الطريق الصحيح. إنه طريق الذي لا ينبغي له أن يكون بديلاً عن تعثراتنا المادية، ولكنه طريق الرئيس لحياتنا. يجب أن يكون طريق الحلال الذي يدعونا إلى الالتزام بالأخلاق وتحمل المسؤولية باعتبارها القيم الأسمى التي تتحقق بها السعادة البشر ورضا الله عز وجل. أيها الإخوة والأخوات، إننا نشهد اليوم دعوات متكررة لكي نعيد إلى المنظومة الاقتصادية القيم الأخلاقية التي يقوم عليها التصور الإسلامي للاقتصاد، المستند إلى مبادئ الحلال والحرام. إنه تصور يقوم على الآتي: ممارسة الأنشطة والمعاملات التي لا تقوم على الفساد، حرية السوق وتشكيل الأسعار وفقا لمفهوم الحلال، التعامل مع البضائع التي لا تضر بصحة الناس، التقييم العادل للعمل الآخرين ودفع أجور العمال في مبادئها، حظر المعاملات القائمة على الغش والاحتيال والربا، احترام الملكية الخاصة وحماية الموارد العامة الضرورية لحياة الناس، الماء والمرعى والوقود والخامات، حماية فئات المجتمع الضعيفة، حظر تلويث البيئة الطبيعية وتعزيز الاقتصاد الأخضر، حظر الإنتاج واستخدام الأغذية المعدلة وراثياً إلى آخره. وفي سنوات الثلاثين الأخيرة تم إحراز تقدم الملحوظ في النهج المؤسسي والتحقق من الاستيفاء المنتجات والأعمال شروط الحلال، وقد أنشئت الكثير من المجالس المهنية والعلمية التي تتابع التطور الصناعي وتراقب ما يمكن أن يمثل مشكلة للناس. وقد انضمت البوسنة والهرسك ودول أخرى في الجوار إلى حركة الحلال العالمية عبر وكالة الشهادات الجودة الحلال التي أسسها المشيخة الإسلامية في البوسنة والهرسك، والتي تشارك في أعمال معهد المواصفات والمقاييس للدول الإسلامية. وبالإضافة إلى الحقائق المذكورة، أود في هذه المناسبة إشارة إلى عدد من المبادئ الأساسية التي يجب أن تؤخذ في الحسبان دائما عند الحديث عن الحلال. ومن هذه المبادئ: الحلال رحمة الله للناس، الحلال جزء من استخلاف الإنسان في الأرض، يؤخذ في الحلال جانب من المسؤوليتنا تجاه الآخرين والعمال والمنتجين. الحلال واجب وحق، وهو أيضا أمانة في أعناق الأفراد والمؤسسات التي نؤسسها. وحتى نبني نظاما اقتصاديا قائما على الالتزام بمبادئ الحلال والحرام، يجب أن تتوافق أعمالنا كلها مع أمر الله عز وجل، إذ يقول: يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تخونوا الله والرسول وتخونوا أماناتكم وأنتم تعلمون. أشكركم على حسن إصغائكم، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، وشكرا لكم.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. With pleasure, I am pleased to call His Excellency Dr. Perry Warjio, the Governor of the Central Bank of Indonesia, to deliver his presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Let me start by thanking IsDB for this excellent forum. The question that we face from Indonesia in this country, do we satisfy our country only the importer or consumer of halal product? This is the basic question that we asking 9 years ago in Indonesia. Because now the biggest producer or exporter of halal meat, Australia, Brasilia. The biggest producer of cosmetic, South Korea. The biggest producer of fashion, China. So in this forum must answer, are we satisfied only as consumer of halal product, as importer? In Indonesia, we do not want it. That started about 7 years ago. This is the story, the real story of Indonesia in accelerating halal industry. Let me have my slide, please. How Indonesia, the strategy to accelerate halal industry. The case of it, that we started about 7 years ago. And now Indonesia becoming emergence of one of the better supplier of halal fashion, some of halal food. Still a long way, but let's get together. What the story? Let me have my slide, second slide. The first thing that we have to do, we have to have strong political will. This is about 7 years ago, my President Joko Widodo and my Vice President, Yai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, direct us to form the National Committee of Indonesian Halal or Islamic Economic and Finance. Do we need to start finance? No. In the past, we only building larger bank, a lot of finance. Like we are creating more buses. But who is the bus? Who are the passenger? That the buses need to carry on. So starting from about 7 years ago, we changed our direction, started developing the halal ecosystem, the economy. From the SME and madrasah, boarding school in Indonesia, to larger industry, global halal hub. Then we creating more and more passenger. And then we also developing bank. We have one of the largest bank, but also the social finance. But more important, the third pillar campaign. It's very important. The halal lifestyle is beauty. It's toiban. It's not traditional. This important. So this is that started 7 years ago. National strong commitment, very important. The second aspect about, yes, we need to accelerate the certification. This is the largest, this is also easy to say, but it's difficult. Why? As the largest Muslim country, we already take for granted that everything, the food, all of the things is halal. But when we are facing a lot of product from foreigners, which is halal certification, then we ask ourselves, where is my product? Where is my, food? Because less competitive with foreign product. Remember, Thailand is one of producer of halal kitchen in the world. So that's why we started that. 5 years ago, the government of India issued a law that have obligation, mandatory certification with transition about 5 years. So next year, we try to have halal food certification. And then 2026, about cosmetic medicine permission. But it's easy to say than done. It's very difficult. because we have to start the upstream, the food upstream and the downstream. But of course, the process is very difficult. We need to build a laboratory, we need to build the assessor, we need to, not only stop for the fatwa, but the implementation. We also building the digitalization, automation of certification process. But research and education is very important. This is very hard work, challenging. Next slide, the ecosystem. Indonesia is one of the largest Muslim. We have about 42,000 Islamic boarding schools, which is in the past only talking about education. Bank Indonesia started about 7 years ago, go to those boarding schools. Not only teaching about education, but transforming also boarding school as one of the proponent of the economic and business. Remember, the student of Islamic boarding schools is the best entrepreneur. Why? Because they already live in hard work. Second, from one boarding to other boarding, there is a network of ulama. They know each other. What we need to teach them becoming entrepreneur. So we are building this, the basis of SME Indonesia, Islamic economic in the boarding school. You may not believe it, but they are progressing very well. They are best in producing halal food from the SME. And now we also have holding business of boarding economic business throughout the country. Bank Indonesia have 46 branches that also promoting this boarding school, Islamic boarding school, based economic business, progressing around the country. But also from the business, next slide, to also now we already set up Global Halal Hub. What is Global Halal Hub? This is a consortium about 20-25 off-taker. Remember, SME is small. Their skill is less competitive. We need an off-taker that take those products, and we have about 20 and 25 this off-taker and form a consortium of Global Halal Hub that now becoming exporter. But we also invite the industry. Those all take care of those products. We are focusing on halal food and halal fashion. Bank Indonesia is one of the best halal modest fashion that we are producing, middle and upper class. But also, and other aspect, not only food, fashion, but also tourism, and we are also renewable energy, ESG type, but also on the other aspect of medicine, pharmaceutical. It's much more hard work. Synergy, collaboration, coordination, silaturahim, those kind of very important. Jama'ah, getting together, this is the role of National Committee, and why Bank Indonesia, the central bank, also take a role on the aspect. Next slide. When we talk about finance, please do not only stop on the banking, commercial finance. Remember, in Islam, the social finance is very important. Not only zakah, infak, sodaqah, but akaf. The productive wakaf for SME, SDG, becoming also important. We have sukuk link wakaf, wakaf link sukuk. We also a number of NGO that working on this, organizing those zakat, infak, sodaqah, and becoming a social finance, which is good for SME, good for SDG, this good for Ummah. Last but not least, campaign. Starting 9 years ago, next slide please, we have Indonesian Syariah Economic Festival in every October. Now it's becoming the 9. Last year's the 9 is set, where we invite everybody from the scholar, university, businessman, finance, bank, boarding school, business, we invite to get together. This is like, Nabawi Mosque. When everybody we invite to get together building Indonesian halal economic and finance. Last year, we organized one of the biggest Indonesian modest fashion. 163 designer, 1,562 model. So, please, ladies and gentlemen, buy Indonesian fashion. Last month, we also have fashion show in Dubai. We may, if we are invited, can be in Jeddah and other country. Modest fashion is becoming the beauty, expensive, and competing with the global. But of course, we also doing a lot of campaign. The halal lifestyle is about values, about beauties, about wealth creation, about value added, and most of all, best for ummah, best for economic development. Last slide. So this is the story of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, don't stop here, only sit down and just we are enjoying the more imported product from other country. Build industry in our country to get together. One, commitment from the top is very important. Second, build the ecosystem, halal industry. Third, creating export halal hub. Number 4, creative finance. Not only commercial finance, social finance, blended finance. Number 5, campaign. May Allah the Almighty always bless us. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for the informative presentation. Now, I would like to call Mr. Hairul Arifin Sahari, CEO of Halal Development Corporation, HDC, Malaysia. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers, respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The global halal market size is projected to be at USD 5 trillion by 2030. By any means, this is a clear reflection of the need to harness collaborative efforts among the halal stakeholders and ISDB member countries in working towards a common cause, namely to participate towards the growth of the global halal economy. Aside from fulfilling the market demand for the global Muslim population, which is estimated at 1.9 billion, the halal market is ever expanding and attracting other consumers as well, due to its wholesome, hygienic, and contamination-free principles in food and non-food production. And if we combine both market demands, the potential size is presumed to the tune of USD 38.1 trillion, and it is indeed a very huge market for ISDB member countries to tap into. In view of these figures, and if supported by a reliable, mature ecosystem that consists of not just governments, but the economic and business communities as well, the halal industry globally can expand and thrive as networks, interactions, transactions take place between these realms. The relationship between HDC and ISDB is long-standing in relations to halal development. Previously, both these development agencies were involved in an initiative to realign and recalibrate the halal certification within the ASEAN region under the informal annual meetings of religious ministers for Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and Singapore, or MABIMS. And most recently, MABIMS has also included Muslim ministers of Muslim minority from Kingdom of Cambodia. This fruitful relationship has seen evolve to the extent of ISDB announcing its Kuala Lumpur office as the Center of Excellence, or COE, for Islamic finance, halal industry, and innovation. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic had both ISDB and HDC discovering issues of supply chain disruptions on essential items, especially from the imported goods from multinational companies, which are mostly from countries with advanced economies. These essential items are food and beverages, pharmaceuticals, and personal care, of all which core manufacturing industries within a halal economy. HDC and ISDB took the task to develop an economic cursory assessment on halal ecosystems to identify manufacturing and production readiness of ISDB countries in order to become self-reliant, especially in the production of their own essential industry, including but not limited to food, beverages, pharmaceuticals, and personal care, to ensure self-sufficiency. This task was jointly assisted by other esteemed OIC agencies, including SMIC, ICDT, CESRIC, COMSEC, and others. Last year, during the visit by His Excellency ISDB President Dr. Muhammad Sulaiman Al-Jasir to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, both HDC and ISDB COE Kuala Lumpur had presented findings from SAID Collaboration, a global halal ecosystem assessment report that provided potential solutions to the current state of halal ecosystem development in ISDB member countries. Until recently, these shortcomings, including intra-supply by and for ISDB member countries' economies, were also emphasized from trade statistics published by the OIC agency Islamic Center for Development of Trade, or ICDT 2022 Halal Economic Report, that saw, in the year 2021, a trade deficit of some USD 63 billion within a total trade of USD 275 billion exports and USD 333 billion imports amongst the OIC members country. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, halal and toyib are common aligned to the United Nations Global Development Goals. Firstly, placing emphasis on environmental, social, and governance, or ESG. Halal principles are often congruent with ESG parameters. They may serve as a benchmark in terms of analyzing organizational effectiveness in accordance with ESG parameters. In other words, the values of halal and ESG have much commonality rather than differences. Secondly, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or UN SDGs, are aimed at establishing a more sustainable and more environmental sound nature or future for humankind. I would like to reiterate that the fundamentals of halal is that halal-related products, resources, and transactions must benefit the entire value chain, notwithstanding humans, animals, and the environment. Henceforth, the halal economy is expected to be resilient as well as being able to secure development goals, advocating the pursuit of the well-being for all lives whilst safeguarding the environment. As an engine for future growth in the halal industry, there is a need to invest in alternative and viable options such as Sharia-compliant financing, community development banks, sukuk, Islamic social financing, instruments such as wakaf and zakat, to spur a host of initiatives designed to elevate the micro, small, and medium enterprises in need of financing support and assistance. A strong partnership between the public and private sectors would be beneficial to these enterprises during these times of global economic uncertainty and post-pandemic recovery period. SDC strongly believes that the linkages created in the halal sector will help enhance the ecosystem of Sharia-compliant fundraising activities, particularly in the market-based financing segment, as well as addressing obstacles and issues faced by these enterprises regarding funding accessibility. We believe that the adherence to the inclusion of the Sharia principles will help strengthen the cooperation and brotherhood between the halal industry players and facilitators, progress and develop an economic environment that is solid and justified and ignite strength in spiritual and moral values to preserve the underlying objectives of the Sharia principle itself. The adherence to the inclusion of Sharia principles can be exemplified by the concept of social solidarity, which is a source of economic development and political stability, can be enforced through the formation of group-based lending among the rural poor communities who were normally denied access to credit mainstream financial institutions and markets. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as they say, history speaks for itself, and in reading through the history books of the world, what stands out for me is this. For more than 1,400 years, the economy of Islamic countries has been managed through the concept of zakat and waqaf, which were the backbone of socio-economic development and poverty eradication in that era. The concept is the prelude to the Greater Islamic Economy, or GIE. At HDC, the GIE model is our overarching strategy to develop and sustain Malaysia's halal ecosystem by leveraging on 5 identified key components, including waqaf, zakat, takaful, ar-rahnu, and qardul hasan. As of last year, under GIE model, HDC, with one-off funding support from the government, developed a program for our local SMEs by utilizing waqaf as a new Islamic social instrument or tool to provide interest-free funding assistance for businesses affected by the pandemic or for expansion purposes. Repayment by the recipients would be channeled back to the dedicated waqaf fund for other SMEs to utilize. The recipients are also encouraged to contribute an additional 2.5% of their annual business profits to the dedicated waqaf fund. In essence, the funds would continuously revolve, and the additional contribution would greatly benefit the businesses of the MSMEs, creating a spillover effect in progressing the country's economy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is agreed upon by development agencies and proven by countries with advanced economies that a functioning, vibrant, and receptive business ecosystem enables for more resilient entrepreneurs and grow enterprises to become pacesetters within each focus industries, manufacturing, or even services, of all which are backed by a reliable, mature, and thriving ecosystem consisting of an economic community supporting and interacting between these business worlds. These ecosystems over time co-evolve in roles and capabilities to transform and correct any shortcomings. We can build not only businesses, but the economies and empires of ISDB member countries as well as beyond through mutually supporting and assisting each other, sharing aligned visions, directions, and investments underlined by the simple concept of prospering neighbors and paying it forward as encouraged in Islam. And recently, Malaysia has launched her second Halal Industry Master Plan, or HIMP 2030, that plans to see the halal economy contributing to double digits from Malaysia's total GDP of about USD 1 trillion in 2030. HDC has always been open for collaboration with ISDB member countries, and currently we have curated and detailed planning for halal ecosystem enablement for some ISDB member countries, a model for a halal ecosystem enablement that will utilize HDC's proven developmental and commercial services that caters for governments, industry players, and also service providers. We also believe that each country would need a halal development firm on their own to manage each halal ecosystems. Just as how Dubai Islamic Economic Development Center, or DIEDC, was for UAE, Dar Al Halal for Nigeria, Komiti Nasional Ekonomi dan Kewangan Syariah KNEKX for Indonesia, and now the one we celebrate of late, the Halal Products Development Company, or HPDC, of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. On this note, I believe that Private Sector Forum, or PSF 2023, is the most apt and best platform for ISDB member countries led by Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as a champion to restore the glory of the golden age of Islamic civilization through the halal ecosystem and GRA model. We wish every halal economy and Islamic finance advocates here all the best moving forward and looking forward to collaborating together. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hairul. Before I present our final speaker, I would like to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Haikuran Murati. His Excellency is the Minister of Finance, Kosovo. You're very much welcome. Thank you for delighting us. Our final speaker in this high-level opening session is Mr. Mamadou Dikoulandan. He's the CEO of Dar Al Halal, Nigeria. Mr. Ladan, the floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Muhammad Dikoladan, CEO Dar Al Halal, Nigeria. It's such a great honor for me to stand on this big platform for a small company that is just under 3 years old, focused on growing the halal economy of Nigeria and position Nigeria as a strategic member of the global halal industry. We came into existence on realization of the fact that the private sector has a key role to play in the growth of our economies. We're trying to complement the effort of the government and the major institutions of the OIC. And together with the Dinar Standard, the leading halal market consultancy firm, we, for the first time, launched the Nigeria Halal Economy Report. This was on the 27th of April, and we were honored, actually, and encouraged to have the presence of the Vice President of the OIC, Dr. Mansour Mukhtar. And in addition, we were pleased by the attendance of the ministers, in particular agriculture, finance, in particular trade and water resources, among others. And then we also had the keen participation of His Highness the Emir of Kano, the paramount king of one of the largest kingdoms we have in Nigeria, with representation from the Emir on Zoom, Emir of Zazzau, and another neighboring kingdom, the Sultan of Sokoto, the leading Islamic ruler in Nigeria, sent representation, and among others. The most important message we were able to present was, look, Nigeria is missing out on all the benefits and the advantages of participating in the global halal economy. And the report, which is in line with what you've seen presented by the governor of the Bank of Indonesia, highlights Nigeria as being the 11th consumer of halal products globally, and the second largest, second only to Egypt in Africa, with a consumption of 107 billion. But more importantly, we're able to bring it to the people and the business of Nigeria to say, look, yes, food leads, followed by Islamic finance, but then we have fashion, media, health care, and agri-fintech. So that is what we were able to achieve. And in the process, the story is very interesting for us. We managed to learn a lot more about Nigeria and Africa because Dinar Standard challenged us with the SWOT analysis. What are you telling the world? What is the message? But more importantly, what is the message for Nigeria and what is the message for West Africa? Nigeria is strategic with a population of over 200 Muslims and a majority, so easily you can say over 100 Muslim Ummah. And if you take the West African community, ECOWAS, which is a major, major trading bloc, you have a market and an Ummah of easily 300 to 350 million people. And then, of course, we have the global or the regional hub of Africa. So what we are saying is, yes, we're private sector, we're young, and we are very grateful for this opportunity, but above all, we're determined to work to reach the common man on the street. At this big platform, there is always talk of fending off crisis, resilience, sustainability. How do you achieve that? You achieve it, yes, we're talking of SME, but our view is there is the small of the SME, that's the community and the traders and the people who are below the radar. These are people that are not even bankable. How do we achieve that? And we can achieve that by creating and bringing reports and working with leading institutions to bring awareness. And in this respect, we've been working, we've received a lot of support from ISDB in trying to create awareness. We're also working to reach out to some of the leading economies. And we were in the process of this report delighted to find that Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, have created the Halal Development Company. And for us, the Muslim Ummah, we look so much to Saudi Arabia as an example. We come for the spiritual visits and the leadership, but above all, for Saudi Arabia, for example, to develop a halal development company, it says a lot for us in terms of opportunities. And coming here, we realize Indonesia, Malaysia, Egypt, Morocco, and other leading countries are all willing to work with us. So for us, we are saying welcome and thank you above all to ISDB and for this opportunity to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mamadou. Following this inspiring opening session, we will now start our first panel discussion on promotion of investment and intra-trade in halal industry. The panel will be moderated by Dr. Muhammad Ali Mashrawi. Dr. Muhammad is the Managing Director of Halal Products Advisory in the Halal Products Development Company, HPDC. And the panel is composed of Mr. Amin Saadi, he's the Chief Investment Officer, HPDC KSA. Mr. Afdal Al-Yasar, he's the Director Halal Products Industry, KNEKS, Indonesia. Mr. Ahmed Sailani, he is the Executive Board Member and the Managing Director of Tenmia Food Company, KSA. Mr. Arshad bin Muhammad Ismail is the CEO of Exim Bank, Malaysia. Last but not the least, Mr. Msaad Al-Abedi is the CEO, Senior Advisor of Saudi Export Development Authority. Dr. Muhammad and the esteemed panelists, the floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you, Noof. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We will start our first panel session discussing how to promote the halal industry through investment and intra-trade. This is a very important topic, and thanks for IDB and the private sector forum to have like these sessions to avoid speaking about too much regulation and ecosystem. We need to speak much more in the halal industry on investment and intra-trade. Just to put some rules in our panel discussion, I will give 30 seconds to each one of you to present himself. Then we will start our questions. Just 1 minute to 2 minutes answer so that we can have enough time to discuss many topics. So I will start with Amin Saadi, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is Amin Saadi. I am the Chief Investment Officer of Halal Products Development Company. As you are aware, Halal Products Development Company was established and fully owned by the PIF, by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, with the objective of basically promoting and enhancing the halal economy and ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. My background is investment banking in general. Before joining HPDC, I was the head of investment banking in Rajhi Capital. It's a pleasure to be part of this event and to be part of this esteemed panel. Thank you so much.
Please, Mr. Abdul.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, participants, I'm honored to be here. It's a very important event, IsDB Group, private sectors. My name is Abdul Aliasar. I'm a director of Halal Product Industry in the National Committee for Islamic Economy and Finance, Republic of Indonesia. I look after development of halal industry in Indonesia. The committee has 16 ministries as members which involve in Islamic economy and halal industry developments. What we are doing is making the strategy, some new initiative and coordinating the actions program, raising collaborations among committee members, and enhance halal industry development. Investment in halal sectors to ensure halal assurance to our consumers and also get economic benefit from the production and global trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul. Mr. Ahmed Hasilan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To our dear guests who are visiting Saudi Arabia, welcome home. My name is Ahmed Asailan. I'm delighted and honored to be here among this prestigious panel and this prestigious event, and delighted and honored to also be invited by HPDC on behalf of private sector, and also to be hosted by ISDB in this event. Tanmiya Food Company is a publicly listed Saudi company, and we have three main pillars that is our main focus. Number one is food security in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and followed by the growing demand in the halal market. And last but not least, our key focus area is doing all of this in a responsible way. And we have integrated ESG as our core delivery arm to ensure that whatever we produce, we also positively impact and create value from. Furthermore, we'll have more topics to be covered with Dr. Muhammad. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rashad, please.
Thank you very much. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I represent the Exim Bank of Malaysia. The Exim Bank of Malaysia is a development finance institution. We are wholly owned by the Ministry of Finance. We carry both foreign currency as well as local currency ratings. Our foreign currency rating is A3, in line with the sovereign's rating. Our local currency rating is AAA, also in line with the rating carried by the sovereign in the local market. Of course, these ratings are on the back of the parentage. In terms of our business model, we offer non-trade finance solutions. We offer trade finance solutions. And another important aspect of our business model is providing trade credit, takaful, and insurance. I would like to latch on to what my colleague mentioned with regard to ESG. We have just embarked on our ESG journey, and we expect to have our ESG framework in place by the third quarter of this year, because we believe that this is a very important component of the operating model for businesses now and going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Mr. Musad.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Musad Al-Abedi, CEO, Senior Advisor, Saudi Export Development Authority. The main mandate for this authority to increase non-oil export.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Musad. So just to remind you, dear speakers, to be very short in your answer, 2 minutes maximum for each question. I will start without any delay to ask Mr. Amin, as he is having a very long background in investment. So in the food industry, Amin, how we can evaluate a good opportunity in halal industry?
Thank you, Doctor, for the question. Given the mandate of HPDC, we look at 3 main objectives when evaluating an investment opportunity. The 3 objectives are how we can promote the halal economy in Saudi Arabia, and how we can develop the economy development, how we can support the economy development in the kingdom as well. And thirdly is how we can achieve an attractive financial returns of this opportunity. So regarding the first objective, which is promoting the halal economy in Saudi Arabia, we look at the halal relevance of this opportunity, in particular in relation to the regulatory aspect. So we look at how significant or how important it is to have a halal certificate in the different Muslim countries. The other aspect that we look at is basically the possibility of having non-halal components of the products that we are looking at, whether in Muslim countries or elsewhere, and how we can replace it with other halal alternatives. And the third aspect that we look at is basically the consumer preference for halal alternatives for those products. Some products have high halal relevance, others have maybe less halal relevance. The other objective that we look at is the support of the economy in general in Saudi Arabia. So we look at the opportunity and how it can help localize the production capabilities in Saudi Arabia. We look at the job creation and the transfer of knowledge through this opportunity. And we look at how we can cover the local demand so we can reduce the import, and we look also at the export potential. Lastly is the financial attractiveness of the company. This is similar to any other investment opportunity. This includes the size and scalability of the opportunity. We also take into consideration the market and the growth potential in the market, in addition to the profitability and returns of the profile of this investment opportunity.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Yani, very good answer. Thank you very much. I mean, to see the aspect from a government authority, which is Saudi Exports, Mr. Musad, can you please explain to us how is the role and what's the role of Saudi Export in supporting the halal ecosystem in general?
Thank you. Actually, through the National Industrial Strategy, which is a comprehensive plan to increase non-oil export and attract more foreign investment, increase the innovation and research. Saudi Export is now working on developing the national export strategy with more focus on goods export, services export, and re-export. At the same time, we are working on developing the national halal strategy with the main aim of increasing halal investment, increasing halal export, improving halal operating system and governance, and developing human resource capabilities. Also, we are working on mutual agreement with the main stakeholder in the sector. For example, we are working on mutual agreement with Halal Product Development Company, by which the exporters can utilize the services and incentives provided by Saudi Export.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Musa'ad. So, in the same question, I will ask Mr. Arshad from Exim Bank, Malaysia, to have the same question. I will ask you how the Exim Bank in Malaysia is supporting the halal industry in general.
Thank you very much for the question. Let me put things into perspective. Exim Bank Malaysia comes under the purview of the Ministry of International Trade and Industry. And my colleague from HDC Malaysia, who spoke earlier, also comes within the purview of the Ministry of International Trade. So whilst our scope goes beyond the halal segment, but the halal segment in the context of supporting local industries is very much within our scope. And our portfolio comprises exposures to both non-SME customers as well as SME customers. But we have come to the realization that the SME segment needs more support than the non-SME segment. And in this regard, we have put in place certain incentives. For example, we have introduced a scheme whereby we subsidize the financing rate up to 1.5%. And the other incentive we have in place relates to our trade credit takaful product. And what we have realized is that whilst many SMEs are able to manufacture and produce, they face challenges when it comes to selling their products abroad. Of course, within the Ministry of International Trade family, there are other agencies that help support in the promotion of their products and services. But the challenge they face relates to the risk associated with selling their products abroad to buyers they are not familiar with. And that's where we come in with our trade credit takaful product. And in order to encourage them to benefit from this arrangement, we offer up to a 50% discount on the premium payable. So these are some of the arrangements we have put in place to encourage the growth of our producers and manufacturers of halal goods and services. Now, beyond that, as a development finance institution, or rather to put it differently, our role as a development finance institution is not, should not be limited to granting financing and trade finance solutions. We also need to provide platforms that will introduce opportunities in different countries, in different regions to our SMEs. And in this regard, I can mention that Exim Bank Malaysia has exposures in 52 different countries in the context of helping our entrepreneurs go beyond the traditional markets. And this year, based on the conversations I've had over the last 2 days, we intend to put in place more initiatives to create platforms to introduce opportunities in different regions to our entrepreneurs in Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashad. So to go to the players in the halal industry, we have Mr. Ahmed Silan from Tanmia Food Company. And if I may say, Ahmed is leading a complete transformation of Tanmia, which is one of the leading company in Saudi. How do you see the opportunities of investment in halal industry, particularly in Tanmia?
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. I'd like to first start by talking about the opportunity within Saudi and then how the global market is. Inspired by Vision 2030 and before even COVID took place, we realized the importance of food security, which is a growing concern globally. And based on the Vision 2030 plans and different incentive programs, which includes different incentives such as funding by our Agricultural Development Fund, Saudi Industrial Fund, and various programs that the government has established to achieve national food security. Tanmia is one of the bigger players in Saudi Arabia, focusing on providing everyday food and targeting the food security at large. The country has identified through Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Environment, Water and Agriculture a target for 80% local production, reducing our reliance on imported products and instead start to become an exporting hub. Saudi Arabia, by a geographic location and by the vision of 2030 to be the heart of the Islamic world, with investment capabilities and geographical location with proximity to more than 500 million consumers within the neighboring market. We are not called the Middle East for nothing. We're actually in the middle of the Middle East. And that gives us a huge opportunity, also being in the Holy Land of Saudi Arabia, to be the promoter and one of the leaders in the global halal play. 80% of the halal market products are produced in not necessarily halal countries, which really gives an opportunity for us to work together as halal market players to provide quality products to the Islamic bloc, and not only the Islamic bloc, because halal products are also good for the non-Muslims. Conventional meat versus Islamic halal food is a health conscious and a health product. And we have been very innovative in driving different innovations. Our recent innovation was introducing for the first time in the Middle East plant-based omega-3 chicken, which helps not only your health requirements, but also provides you with a daily requirement of omega-3 for each chicken consumed. From Tanmia's point of view, we strongly believe in certifications. We are certified by the Animal Welfare NSF. We are the only producers of FP grade 2.5 kg, suppliers of McDonald's, Burger King, and we have recently started our own master franchise with Popeyes, which really brings the company into the value chain from upstream corn and soya purchasing and supply all the way down to QSR. And one of our recent most success is also being able to attract investments and foreign direct investments into the country by partnering with the global player Tyson, who is now working with us very closely in Saudi Arabia to work together on developing halal products at large, and not only for Saudi Arabia, but also for the global market. Also, we have partnered with our upstream partner and genetics expert and food producer, MHP from Europe, to produce hatching eggs. Food security cannot be imported from abroad. So we are going to Saudi Arabia imports a lot of hatching eggs to breed the further downstream business in Saudi Arabia. However, with MHP, we are planning to expand and setting up farms and hatcheries and feed mills in Saudi Arabia to become an exporter of hatching eggs rather than an importer of hatching eggs. There are various other initiatives, including 3 awards that we have recently received, which is a great place to work with. The Forbes Top 10 Innovative and Sustainable Companies, and also being certified in many other areas by BRC and other quality standards. That is not for showing that we are certified, but reassuring that we are qualified and capable of producing food in a global competitive way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. We will come back to you, inshallah. And please remind everybody to be very short and answer maximum 2 minutes. Mr. Afdal from Indonesia, KNKS, in Indonesia, they create KNKS to be like a holding company or a holding or authority to manage the halal, the Islamic economy, and you are in charge of the halal industry particularly. What KNKS is offering to support and to enhance the halal industry, and some case studies?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mohammed. We realize in Indonesia we have more than 230 million Muslims that need halal product. So we need to ensure our productions to get the halal product. But the good thing in here, besides to produce the halal product, we want to encourage the promotion for the trade. So last year we start the initiative that we call it codification of halal informations. I can show one figure, please. So the codification of halal informations, the information from the product, when the exporter send the product to the other country, the exporter can fill the information numbers, the halal certification number, through the custom and trade reporting. So it creates a reliable statistic for us. We have numbers, who are the players, where the product halal destination countries, and the industries, either foods, beverage, or other cosmetics and pharmaceutical. So the good thing of this global initiative, when the data already stores in our custom systems, it connects with other countries. So electronic exchange of halal informations will create the integrity of the halal trade in the future. So we can try to protect the manipulation for the halal certification. So when the export and importer from among the members countries can utilize this. Now, currently in Indonesia, in ASEAN countries, we have what we call that national single window. We can do exchange of information for the halal. So I want to encourage all the members countries and also maybe the others players of halal industry to try to look at this initiative. With the electronic exchange, we can create the integrity for the halal trade. So it's very robust and lean digital system. It is not only for Indonesia, it's for global. And in the future, we can see the information of the halal. It's easy to get in every member's country. So we know what country needs what product. So that's the future of halal trade and investment we are looking for.
Thank you very much, Mr. Afdal. We know that investing and promoting the halal industry is really a major point that even IDB now is looking for to promote in the Muslim countries. But I will ask Amin about what kind, in the food industry, for example, let's be specific. In the food industry, what are the main segments that are really, you see, more attractive to invest in and to develop, for example, in Saudi?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. At HPDC, we look at all the opportunities in the different segments that fit the objective and the criteria of the company. However, maybe we can mention the top 3 or 4 segments that we focus on. Maybe the first one would be poultry, as my colleague Ahmed, he mentioned that poultry is important for the food security of Saudi Arabia. It is highly relevant in terms of halal, and it's a staple food for all Muslim countries. The other segment that we look at is snacks as well, whether it's savory snacks or confectionaries. We've noticed through the assessment and the analysis that was done that there is a consumer demand on this sector in general. So we see a growing demand and profitability in this sector. And the third sector we also look at is ingredients, and in particular flavors, since they are used in multiple halal products in the food industry in general. We've noticed that there's also a growing consumer demand on frozen food and ready-to-eat meals, and this is also another sector that we focus on at HPDC.
Okay. Thank you very much, Amin. We'll go back to Mr. Musad and to ask him very specifically how Saudi Export is supporting the companies and what are the programs and incentives programs that are in place to help the company to export.
Actually, Saudi Export provides about 14 services for exporter. These services are under 3 categories. First category, exporters capabilities development. Also services related to export promotion and export procedures enhancement. All these services are free of charge. In terms of incentives, Saudi Export provides about 9 incentives for marketing, legal support, product registration, special training, and all these incentives are under continuous improvement for exporters. In addition to that, Saudi Export supervises Made in Saudi program with the aim of marketing Saudi goods and services globally and locally, and to be the most preferred products and services for customers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arshad. I will come back to you to ask what kind of incentives specifically, you mentioned some of them on your first question. What are the programs as well which are given to the companies specifically in halal, for example? Mr. Arshad.
Right. Would you mind repeating the question, sir?
Yeah. I'm asking the same question for Saudi Export. What are the incentives you are giving, or some package or some financing programs you have for the SMEs, as you mentioned before a little bit?
Yes, thank you. I mentioned it in my earlier response. I'll repeat what I said earlier. In the context of financing, we have schemes whereby we are able to grant discounts on the financing rates. And these schemes are meant specifically for SMEs, simply because SMEs need more support than non-SMEs, who tend to be the larger companies. So that's number one. So if we are able to reduce financing rates by up to 1.5%, that's quite a significant form of support for such SMEs. That's number one. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we have our trade credit takaful program. And in this context, for SMEs in particular, we are able to slash up to 50% of the premium contributions. Again, the sort of idea is to encourage them to export as much as possible to as many jurisdictions as possible without having to worry about the risk of not getting paid, because that's where we come in to, from the perspective of the SMEs, eliminate that risk and to encourage them to produce and export.
Do you have any requirement for these companies in terms of size, in terms of revenues, in terms of collaterals?
Well, if they fall into the SME category, then obviously the revenues and the size would be significantly smaller than the non-SMEs. But I would also like to mention that we operate within the Ministry of International Trade family, and there are several other organizations that focus on developing SMEs and Malaysian companies to be ready for the international market. What we realize is that whilst certain companies might be doing well in the domestic market, they are not necessarily ready for the export market, but that doesn't mean that we don't want them to start exporting in the near future. So I was reading up before this session, and one of the other agencies under the Ministry of International Trade that is tasked with helping companies enhance their capabilities, they run programs. For example, they have an exporter training program. As the name suggests, it is meant to help these companies become ready for the export market. And then they also provide market development grants. And another sort of example would be a new exporters development program. The idea is to ensure that these companies don't enter the export market before they are ready and end up sort of having to deal with risks and problems that could have easily been addressed with proper training and proper guidance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arshad. Mr. Ahmed, as you mentioned before, Tanmia is in transformation, focusing on food security. But if in relation to the halal industry particularly and the opportunity, how do you see the future in building this opportunity in Saudi?
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. I probably want to take the opportunity to also emphasize on the halal food value chain, and starting from the certification that now is the standard in Saudi Arabia, which is addressed by the Ministry of Environment, Water and Agriculture, which is called the Saudi GAP, which starts from the halal feed, corn and soya as the main approved food for our chicken and our poultry business. We don't look at halal just from a slaughtering perspective. We look at halal from the beginning of the value chain of feed all the way to also Sharia compliant financing, also to making sure that we are responsible in the after waste production and generating value from production. Here in Saudi, we are working very closely with the Saudi Green Initiative, where our waste is actually turning into a participation of 1 million trees. Also, we have launched different educational initiatives to promote Grand Challenge. We call it the Omni Grand Challenge, which is a $1 million prize that we give out annually to global institutes, research hubs, to promote and to come up with different innovations. So for us, we believe it's a responsibility. We are actively engaged locally, regionally, and globally to advance our competencies and capabilities. through the different certifications, we believe that we can excel and become one of the largest global players in the halal food market. So we're very optimistic. The growth is there, the opportunity is there. And now I think with Vision 2030, the timing is relevant. And
how do you see your interaction with the other stakeholders?
We are in strategic alliance with various stakeholders. Halal Product Development Company is a key player, and we believe that we will have strategic alliances to work together along with other global institutes in the Islamic world to join efforts and truly bring innovation and new products into this market, whereby we really increase the bar and we also follow the consumer behaviors and habits to make sure that we address their needs in a competitive global way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Afdal, I spoke to Mr. Amin about the segments in the food industry. Beside food and beverages industry, halal food and beverages industry, do you see any other opportunities in other sectors, and what are these opportunities?
Yes. We know the preference of the consumers for the food and beverage is very big. So that's why that sector is huge. But I saw a very potential opportunity in the future for the halal pharmaceutical. The pandemic teach us, how many times we get injected with the vaccines. And when we try to ask the consumers, you're asking for the halal vaccines or not? The answer will be yes. So we need to invest. We need to be ready to produce the halal pharmaceutical in the future. So this is a very good opportunity for the investments. And yes, the pharmaceutical development takes long journey. So that's why investment in this kind is very, very significant, critical.
Yeah.
So it's a very huge opportunity. Once we get the halal pharmaceutical, I'm sure all the members country will need the product.
Yeah. His Excellency, the Governor Bank of Indonesia mentioned that your program mainly is towards the micro enterprise, the small and medium-sized enterprise, especially in the upstream, the ingredient, etc. How do you see this linkage to the developing for example, the cosmetics, for example?
Yes. For example, like what we are done in Indonesia. Indonesia, we do a lot of micro SMEs, medium and corporates for the halal industry. So we want to create the supply chain. The micro and the medium and small will be the local source for the medium and corporations. Because we have good agriculture, so that's why we need to create a lot of processing, a lot of industry to produce the ingredients for the industry. So that's the key in the future, to bring the connectivity from the small micro to the medium and to the corporate. So the halal value chains need to be created, and not only one country. We should connect the others, local members, the members' countries.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know how much we still have time to finish this panel session, but I will ask every one of you if you have any last comment to enhance the investment and the trade in the halal industry. I mean, if you have any comment.
Thank you, Doctor. From an investment point of view, I think it was mentioned multiple times during this session about the importance of the halal investment in halal in particular. It's one of the fastest growing industries, and I believe that as Saudi Arabia in general and all Muslim countries they have the responsibility to lead this growth in the halal sector. As mentioned, we want to be exporters rather than importers. It's important for strategic purposes for each of the Muslim countries, and it's important also from a responsibility point of view for Muslims in general and for the humanity.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmed?
Thank you. I believe learning from previous experiences and halal food has been in the market for a long time. So there are a lot of lessons to be learned, and Saudi is in a position now to take it to the next level, including institutionalizing the work, creating a framework that can globally drive standards, improve the quality, and make sure that we bring responsible products to the market. So there's a lot of learning that we can learn from, and setting new standards and working in collaboration with other OIC members to successfully drive this initiative altogether.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Arshad?
I'd like to go back to the question you posed to our colleague from Indonesia in terms of what other sectors we should perhaps focus on in the context of halal. And I would like to throw out a suggestion that the logistics sector is something that we should focus on in the context of halal, simply because during conversations in relation to the halal industry, on many occasions we've had feedback that there is a need to ensure that the supply chain is also in line with halal requirements. I know for a fact that different people, different jurisdictions have different perspectives on whether this is really a necessity. But I think having looked at the sort of logistics industry, we haven't come across a good example of a business or a jurisdiction that is able to ensure the end-to-end halal integrity of delivering products that are manufactured in line with strict halal principles and guidelines. But perhaps that's a conversation for another panel discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Allow me to get some questions from the audience, if there are any. Is there any question from the audience? Otherwise, I will add some point, which is very important, particularly from the trade aspect. We observe that the intra-trade between the Muslim countries are very, very small. Muslim countries are trading between each other around 18% of the trade between Muslim countries. So there is a very big gap, and ICDT, which is very active in this promotion of intra-trade, and the studies showed that there is a lot of barriers, even between Muslim countries. So there is a lot of bilateral agreement in terms of trade, in terms of recognition, etc., and hopefully such events and such panels, and we recommend recommendation to the OIC countries to work as well to eliminate these barriers between barriers of trade. So, is there any question in the audience? Please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Mustafa Gambo, the head of policy, research and partnership, Shelter Afrique, a Pan-African housing finance institution based in Nairobi, Kenya. My question to the panelists is, what are the opportunities that we can explore in terms of the connection between halal products and aspects relating to social housing, affordable housing, Islamic finance? What has been the experience from Malaysia, from Indonesia, and other countries which African countries can learn and replicate across the region? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Who wants to answer? Ahmed, Arshad?
Excuse me, sir. Could you repeat the question? I didn't catch the last bit of the question.
Yeah, it's question how the impact in terms of, please.
Okay, the question goes on to the opportunities in terms of the connection between the global halal industry and housing delivery, social housing, more specifically the value chain. What has been the experience from Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, and how can it be replicated in terms of South-Side cooperation, more specifically for African countries?
In the context of social housing?
Exactly, the connection, the value chain, the SME financing, yes, all those aspects.
Okay, perhaps I can share the experience of Malaysia in the context of social housing. It goes without saying that the government has realized that housing over time has become less and less affordable for the lower income group. And there is a need to address this. And there is an organization in Malaysia that focuses on building affordable housing. But even then, it's not a simple solution, because what is the definition of affordable housing? In the context of Malaysia, in the capital city, for example, this particular organization constructs and sells homes for approximately 350 to 400,000 ringgit. That's approximately less than $100,000. But even at that price level, it's safe to say that many people still find these homes out of their reach. The alternative, of course, is for the government to construct these houses and manage these houses and then rent out these houses. That model has been in place for quite a number of years, but there is a tendency for people to want to own their own homes. So I hope that to some extent addresses the question. And the bottom line is it requires political will, number one, to acknowledge the problem, and number two, to contribute resources, particularly in terms of financial muscle, to make available homes that are then either sold at reasonable prices or rented out at reasonable prices to those who need these homes. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, even though the question was outside of our topics, but thank you for Arshad to have answered to this question. Our topics is how to promote investment and trade to support the halal industry. So if there is any last comment from the panelists, otherwise we will close. Please, Mr. Ahmed.
Just build on the question, and one example I think we could share is our experience in getting financing from Robobank, for example, which is a global agricultural bank for the world. And in our relation with them, we wanted to get financing for equipment and long-term financing for equipment. And one of the things we were able to do for the first time with them is to provide Sharia-compliant financing. So the standard and the modus operandi globally is not necessarily the Sharia-compliant way, but we have managed to do the first time Sharia-compliant agreement with Robobank. So I think getting finance and access to finance through different global institutes in a Sharia-compliant way is an opportunity. But building back maybe offline, one of our ESG initiatives is to also have social impact in Saudi and outside of Saudi. So maybe Tanmiyah can play a role or facilitate some of the opportunities of providing home, shelter, and food for people in need globally. So maybe offline we can discuss this separately. Thank you.
Thank you. Arshad, Afdal, please.
Yes, thank you. People in Indonesia asking us when we try to develop the Islamic bank, the questions, what are the difference? Islamic bank from the other bank, the conventional bank, beside akad and the form. So currently, a lot of consumers cannot differentiate it. So that's why the linkage between the Islamic finance to the halal industry that we need to strengthen. And how to do it? The Islamic finance need to involve into the halal industry. So the Islamic finance need to give more preference to invest, to finance the halal initiative, to create the ecosystem. So become a producer, for example, like halal pharmaceutical. Take it long journey, long investment. But when we start that, it will something very good in the future. So this linkage between Islamic finance and the halal industry, we can work together. Food and beverage, pharmacy, cosmetics, and a lot of value chains. So I'm encouraging Islamic finance institutions to look more deeper the value chains of the halal industry.
Definitely, because we are thinking that halal industry or halal ecosystem is not only regulation about slaughtering. Most of the time, the halal industry will stick to this sphere and this area of regulation only. But this is just, it's a matter of time, it's finalized now, and now we have to focus more on development of the industry by investment, by trade, etc., and by financing as well. In our work, we observed that there is a lot of challenges facing the SMEs particularly. As Mr. Ahmed mentioned, we are halal not only from slaughtering purpose, but even financing is Sharia compliant. So this is really, as Rais Ulama of Bosnia mentioned, halal is really a lifestyle, on the full value chain, the financing, as well as all the social aspect of it. So if there is any other comment from the panelists, otherwise we will give the floor to the next session, inshallah. Thank you very much for, please, Mr. Shad.
May I humbly ask for just one more minute?
Please.
As the only representative of an Exim bank, I have to say a few words. I think Exim banks have a very important role to play in the context of supporting industries, businesses, and entrepreneurs. And going forward, there is a need to bring together Exim banks from IDB member countries to discuss ways how we can collaborate to support the businesses and entrepreneurs. Because we've been talking about the halal industry, the businesses, the entrepreneurs, but the financial muscle is required to drive the industry forward. So going forward, I think there's a need to look at this issue from the perspective of providing the financial muscle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry for being a little bit late. We are 5 minutes maybe late of our panel. Thank you for our esteemed panelists, and thank you for the audience, and hopefully we see you inshallah next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad Ali and the esteemed panelists, for this great interaction and wonderful discussion. We will now start our second panel discussion on innovations in halal industry. This session will be moderated by Dr. Marco Tiemann, the Chief Executive Officer, LBB International, And the panel is composed of Dr. Hamza Qasim, he's the chairman of Hong Long Islamic Bank. Mr. Adli Muhammad, the chief commercial officer of HTC Malaysia. And Ms. Amina Shari, she's the CEO, Sirunai Commerce. Last but not least, Dr. Ilham Habibi, he is the Secretary General of Iftikar. Dr. Marku, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to everybody. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to moderate this session under the Islamic Development Bank, the Group Private Sector Forum. This panel session will be talking about innovations in the halal industry. And before I will be, or the panelists will be introducing themselves, I will first address a little bit more on the ISDB halal ecosystem study, the key findings. So Mr. Amer Boukif, the acting Director General of ISDB, talked about an important study conducted, the Global Halal Ecosystem Assessment. Let me give us a quick summary of the key recommendations which were highlighted in this study, also done in collaboration with the Halal Development Corporation Malaysia. So this study was conducted by the Center of Excellence, which is headed by Mr. Abida. The ISDB Global Halal Ecosystem Assessment Report shows that the halal industry or a national halal ecosystem should be developed in order to promote or facilitate halal industry growth and international trade. This study recommends expanding the role of the ISDB member countries in the halal value chain, which is currently dominated by non-OIC countries, which was also highlighted in the first panel, where a halal cluster and also connecting halal clusters together are critical to achieve synergy. The concept of halal green lanes have been recommended to better control the halal integrity of halal imports and exports and simplification of halal trade. This requires the introduction of a halal code to identify halal in trade, but also measure halal trade. Methods to do so are the HS code from customs, also for air freight, IATA code, and IMO code for sea freight. This study of ISDB also confirms the importance of OIC SMIC halal standards development and adoption of these standards by ISDB member countries. Also, new standards have been recommended by ISDB, in particular a halal park or zone halal standard, halal recycling standards, mainly looking at the use of recycled materials for packaging of halal products, and also a halal value chain standard. Finally, sustained funding for halal science, technology, and innovation, also known as halal STI, is recommended in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Consolidation and collaboration of halal STI and research and development by ISDB member countries are hereby essential in promoting the use of new technology and incentivizing transparency and traceability. I'm very pleased to introduce you to the panelists. So we have 4 esteemed panelists. Datuk Dr. Hamza Qasim, Mr. Atli Mohamed, Ms. Amna Shari, and also Dr. Ilham Habibi. Maybe if all of you, each one, can give a quick introduction, similar to panel 1, 30 seconds only. After that, we dive into the questions. Please. It's working? Thank you. Dr. Hamza.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, good afternoon. Yes, still good afternoon. First, my name is Hamza Qasim. I'm chairman of the Hong Kong Islamic Bank and also board of the conventional bank, and we are a regional bank across ASEAN. I'm also the board of trustee of the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research that also looking at the Islamic digital economy and coordinating this new emerging internet economy in Malaysia and working across with other agencies. Other than that, I've been in and out of, I also used to sit in IDB committees many years ago and helped to set up ICD quite a long time ago. Thank you.
Dr. Marco and distinguished guests, my name is Haji Adli Muhammad. I am from HDC, Halal Development Corporation, which is under the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. I head the commercial division of HDC, in which we have our consultancy team, our Halal Park, Halal Event Management, Halal Training, and also Halal Consultancy. So all these five services we offer, not only nationally, but globally in terms of the halal industry. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Amna binti Sha'ari. I'm from Serunai Commerce. I'm from Malaysia. So what do? Serunai choose to do the most difficult part, which is the big data, where we are deep halal tech, where we make sure all the traceability of the product is traced even at SKU. So we work with many government agencies. Of course, in Malaysia, we work with JAKIM, we work with, which is the Ministry of Islam, and also Ministry of Trade. So we are the enterprise for halal, and we also work with Islamic Development Bank, and now going to many, many countries, and thanking Islamic Development Bank for supporting us all this while, especially Mr. Riyad, who is at the Corporation and Capacity Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ilham Habibi. I'm probably the only non-Malaysian here on the panel. And I'm from the so-called IFTIHAR, which stands for International Islamic Forum for Science, Technology, and Human Resource Development, which was 27 years ago, co-founded by the ISDB, by the Muslim World League, by the IIIT, which is the International Institute for Islamic Thought, and the Federation of Arabic and Islamic Schools, and also the Association for Muslim Intellectuals in Indonesia. And I'm the Secretary General, as I said. We function mainly as a global innovation hub, and that's my role here. I've come here with a company that we support, and we'd like to basically propagate the concept later in the discussion. Outside that, I'm also an entrepreneur. Through my own company, I've invested in various sectors. I think I can read it all in my CV. And also, for the government, I'm acting as the chief executive of the so-called National ICT Council, which is basically an advisory body of the government giving input to the government itself through cross-sectoral participation of that matter, which is the information communication technology. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Ilham. So we have an esteemed group of experts here specialized in the halal industry from different parts of the world. The objective of this session are the following. So we would like to discuss new technologies to support the growth of the halal industry. Secondly, also from our first panel discussion, have we learned the issues in the halal supply chain, importance of supporting SMEs, also the shortage of halal ingredients, the importance also linking with Islamic finance, and also to address the limited role of the Muslim world in the halal value chain. So we would like to understand new technologies to support the growth of the halal industry, and also we would like to come up with clear recommendations and solutions for those issues in the halal industry. So foremost, I would first of all like to give an opportunity for Dr. Hamza Kasim to give his insights, in particular, how does the digital economy create a better well-being among the Islamic community? Doctor.
Thank you. As I was sitting here just now listening to the last panel about the OIC intra-trade is only 13%, which I probably has not much progress for the last many years since I visit IDB. So what I'm saying is that, ISDB, what I'm saying is that if we continue the same we are doing, we're not going to progress. The Islamic community already lost in the old economy, and we are emerging in the new digital economy. This is a catch-up strategy for for the Islamic world if they want to progress. If you look at what is the Islamic digital economy, it consists of around 4 or 5 pillars. One is the fintech, the halal sectors, e-travel, edutainment, education. So these are the new emerging. But this technology, if you look at in ASEAN area, is surging very fast, in terms of the internet economy. At this moment, around 60 billion USD, currently starting from much of the digital economy. But if you look at, digital commerce, when we're looking about intra-trade among OIC countries, the digital commerce is the key one. Today, digital commerce is around 19 trillion. If you look at China, how e-commerce has lifted the small enterprise, lift the quality of standards living of the Chinese through digital commerce, allow SMEs and medium-sized country firms to sell globally. So we were looking about the Islamic world. The only way to introduce, like even Indonesia, they have a lot of enterprise, but we have to look at dominating the global economy, moving from consumer to production. So if we start with the old economy, we'll not make progress. So the second thing is if you look at what are the core technology that is going to drive the digital economy, it is about AI, big data, drone, robotics, and also blockchain. And in the non-digital, it will be gene editing. That industry alone, these 6 technologies, is going to be around 1.3 trillion by 2025, and only be dominated by 5 countries. And none of them are OIC countries, because these are the strategic technology that will drive the Islamic digital economy, and that's very key for us. If we want to look at the macro side, the digital economy will be the one that will lift the underserved community around the OIC countries. If we not embrace the digital technology, I don't see much progress in terms of moving the living standards of people in the OIC countries. So this is my earlier opening. We go to the next question. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Hamza. So what you're saying is that the digital economy will be an important viewpoint for the halal industry to look at. Mr. Adli Mohamed, CEO of HCC Malaysia, I would like to ask you, what kind of technologies in particular are needed to foster collaboration among halal industry participants based on your experience also with the Halal integrated platform?
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Marco. I thank Dr. Hamza for explaining the various technology that's available and of course the data and facts. For me, I would like to explain our experience in Halal integrated platform. What is the Halal integrated platform? It is a platform to include all the stakeholders, be it financial institutions, be it governmental agencies, be it private concerns, public sectors and public sectors, all the stakeholders within this Halal integrated platform, which is only about 2 years old. We have 12,000 members at the time, currently. However, during the Halal integrated platform when we were set, before I talk about technology, let me address 2 challenges that we met, the experiences we met. Number one is in terms of the Halal certification, a concerted global Halal certification has been accepted. So one of the things that we talked about was harmonizing the halal certification process so that we can talk with one voice and it's easier to transcend it to global. The other thread that we engage is in terms of traceability for the halal producers, in which in this case, we found out that the building blocks of halal products is halal certified ingredients. This is something that is a growing concern because, as you know, currently we are not able to meet up the $1 trillion trade. I think we can only address, I think, about less than 20%, if I'm not mistaken, was mentioned just now. So there's still 80% out there that's not being addressed. So we found out that a lot of countries are focusing on creating halal ingredients as the building block for anything halal. Of course, halal ingredients not only for food, pharmaceutical, wellness, and all the other products, all right? So these challenges, I think, are very, very of concern to all of us, and technology will play a role in creating integrity, integration, validity, and so forth. And there are many technologies out there, and I do believe that in order for us to propagate the halal ecosystem globally, the use of technology in every sector is required. All right? That's our experience from HIP.
Thank you, Mr. Adli. So what you have been looking at is the importance to harmonize halal certification process and also to use technology, in particular traceability, to support the halal industry. Ms. Amna Sari, CEO of Serunai Commerce. In terms of technology, I think you are the right person also to share some more insights in what is needed, what technologies are needed to provide trust in halal products and also to support the halal lifestyle for the Muslim consumer, also based on your experience with Verify Halal. Ms. Amna, thank you.
A good question. Everybody wants the real product, which is halal. But unfortunately, there's a lot of fake goods out there. That's why we work with Interpol as well to track the non-halal product that they say is halal. So today, we managed to do Verify Halal app, which is used by more than 260 countries, more than 6,000 cities. We have more than 3 million SKU of products. This is including coloring and everything. The question is very good. How do we get the actual data? The data is core, because one thing with halal is not static, it's not forever. Some certification body do 1 year halal, 2 year halal, 3 year halal. After that, you need to renew it back. And people like KFC, for example, and Pizza Hut, they have more than 2,000 ingredients from 200 countries. All these ingredients must be in real-time halal in order to be halal. If one of your salt, for example, or your ingredient is not halal, therefore, if a drop is not halal. So the integrity of halal is complex. So for us, we go for deep halal tech. So we give it to the consumer, to the companies. We give to many authorities, the government bodies, the halal certification bodies. Today, we work with JAKIM, and it's 83 certification bodies in 46 countries. But there's over 400 certification bodies out there. And today, we've already been in touch more than 200 certification bodies, and we get all the data directly from the certification bodies, and we don't get it from the consumer or the manufacturer, because we want to avoid fake halal. Because, as you know, halal, they just say halal, but actually, even one company may have hundreds of products. Not all the products are halal. So for me, your question is very good. How do I ascertain this data? Yes, we need technology, but it's beyond technology. Yes, we have AI, blockchain, machine learning, blah, blah, blah. And we have the company system, we have the modules for the certification bodies, for the auditors, for the government, and so on and so forth. But the key things here is also cooperation from all agencies, government, as well as the consumer and all the agencies that's involved. Without this participation of all the agencies, we cannot do what we do today. That's why we're very grateful with Islamic Development Bank, where they really believe in us. Since 2019, we've been doing this with many, many countries, especially Indonesia. You know, now we're going to Uganda, and we're going to all the French-speaking countries to work with the government and the certification bodies in order to bring the correct data into the system. By the way, I mentioned 400 certification bodies. 95% of them are not digitized. They don't have computer. So here we are, we're already into a blockchain, metaverse era, but at the same time, our beloved certification bodies are still unable to cope with it. So for our job, we also enable them, educate them to make sure they have the understanding of technology and how this is going to be effective for them and how so they can have for the certification body, they have the bird eye view of what other companies apply to them. Everything is online, even the government encrypted certificate and so on and so forth. So we go for deep tech halal. So your question is, what does it need? It needs just beyond technology. It needs the understanding of agencies and cooperation of all agencies. If not, you will fail. I've been doing this for 13 years and convincing many, many governments to work together to come up with this. So it sounds easy to bring, but it's not easy to bring the 3 million data into one repository, and it's free. The Verify Halal app is free for everybody in the world, and it's used by 6,000 cities today, more than 200 cities. Please download it if you can. Sorry, a bit late.
Thank you, Ms. Amna. So what you're saying is that the integrity of halal is complex. If you had the complexity of supply chains. Also, we're talking about different halal certification bodies in the world, and you need to share data. So the halal certification bodies need to share data in order to understand if the product is halal. So that is an important requirement. Then Dr. Ilham, you have a lot of experience in IT and also the QR code. So what I would like to hear from you is, what is the solution to grow and support also the globalization of the halal industry?
Thanks for your question, Marco. First of all, well, I'm not a halal practitioner as such. I'm from the technology side, and what you just described is a suggestion that came to us as a global innovation hub from one of the, you can say, a startup company that has proposed something very interesting, which is basically that very QR code you mentioned, which is sort of like a concept that we all know, but this one is a bit different because from the very beginning it is conceived as something multilateral. So it's not from bilateral but multilateral. And if you envision millions and millions of participants and users, or even billions, then of course from the very beginning you have to conceive it with the underlying AI basically managing the data. And so the QR code, therefore, we see as a true global platform to enhance communications and collaboration between parties, whether it's governments or regulators or companies or consumers. All of them need to be connected via something that we all agree on. Well, that brings me to the next point here. I think what is very important for us to understand is that in order to move forward the global halal industry and also make sure that the benefits are beneficiaries as many as possible, we need to increase the digital literacy of our consumers and our producers. What my colleague mentioned here, the inability of the regulatory agencies to truly become digital has to do with the insufficient digital literacy that you can find in much of our ummah, actually. It's not enough to just operate digital tools, but we have to be able to produce and conceive those very tools. That is actually, besides the big potential that we have in digital technology and digital industry, that is at the same time the big pitfall. We should not forget that digital economy, digital industry actually creates new paradigms which can be quite dangerous, like the winner takes it all. I mean, if you look into advertising in the digital space, it's in the hand of 2 companies globally, 70%, right? So if you are not careful, the chances and the potential of digitization, which is basically inclusivity, right? We have to imagine, because we have something like fintech, we can bank the unbanked. If we create a digital QR code for halal industry, the small, medium-sized enterprises that were unable to participate in the global halal industry suddenly they have a chance. However, we have to basically, I think, also be aware that this cannot be left to the market itself. It needs to be regulated, it needs to be watched. There needs to be global institutions that make sure that the promise of technology really fulfills itself to become something to be for the betterment of humanity and in a fair and even way.
Thank you.
So it's global, digital, public infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's a key word, I think, here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ilham. So we talk about the public infrastructure, and also digital literacy is important. Before I open for questions to the floor, I would like to ask from each panelist also to provide some key recommendation to the Islamic Development Bank, but also maybe to other OIC agencies regarding solutions for the problems as shared with the first panel discussion. Dr. Hamza.
So if you look at the post-COVID, digital accelerated during the post-COVID adoption of digitization in many countries has moved on very fast. And you find the new generation of the young people in the Islamic world are the early adopters of the digital economy. And we also have this penetration of mobile phone across, even in Africa, in other poorer countries. But I think the key is every country, I think IDSB, ISDB can also help in terms of making sure that the countries around, in the member countries, that the digital economy should be their next wave of strategy for economic growth, because it provides more inclusiveness. Inclusive growth and mobility of young people is through the digital economy. So the faster at the macro level we adopt the digital economy, that means a lot of work to be done. Look at fintech. Fintech during during post-COVID, the Islamic bank like us, sometimes we are too regulated. We are not easy to really to be flexible. Compared to the fintech. A lot of fintech was set up to help in what we call outcome-based, social finance, to do P2P lending to SMEs. We were not able to have access to banking facilities because they don't have credit history. So fintech has come out more flexible. Even the Malaysian government recently have given 5 digital banking, and the whole idea was to focus on the underserved, because the traditional banks don't have this access to data sometimes, but the new generation of banks using data analytics are more flexible. They can build a new credit history by looking at the banks. So the fintech is a future, and they have more flexible, but we need to have accelerator. They don't have access to risk capital. So maybe like ICD can also look at bringing more risk capital to this part of to other part of the world, and also invest in 5G infrastructure. Those countries require or 4G infrastructure to give them access to this internet. Second thing is the whole idea of pushing for digital commerce. Digital commerce is the future. But digital commerce cannot move if the ecosystem is not developed, including the certification, the payment system, and digital trade finance, and also trade documentation. Even countries in ASEAN, among the advanced Islamic economy, digital documentation on the digitalization of trade is still not there compared to the advanced economy. So if we want to have greater export to the non-Muslim country, we have to adopt a more advanced trade facilitation, digitize our trade facilitation system, the digital trade finance, but we have more infrastructure to build around those countries. So that is enormous. Digital commerce is the future. And if
Thank you.
And the next one, the last one is about, the recommendation is about the regulatory framework. The ecosystem in this country are not working, they're working in silos. So we need a whole of government approach to drive the digital economy.
Thank you, Dr. Hamza. Mr. Atli, what is your recommendation to the ISDB? Keep it short.
Okay, we all agree that technology will help the halal ecosystem industry be resilient and also at the same time be sustainable. We all agree. For our part, for HIP, we would like, number one, is to create hub and spoke systems around the region of the world, where then we have our halal trade highways together. We have counter certain things like being it to be generalized in terms of the payment system. All those systems are being experienced by us. However, we also believe that one of the things that we talked about among ourselves yesterday, that harmonizing the halal certification and standards is number one. But we always been talking about harmonizing the halal standards, but let's look at the process. Once we look at the process, we go down in terms of terminology and standards whatsoever. I use the analogy of airlines. There is an airline association they call One World, right? But inside One World, we have Singapore Airlines, Malaysia Airlines. The identity is still maintained. You know, most countries would like to have the so-called brand or country image of halal theirs. So in One World, like the airline, you still can maintain your own country identity in terms of halal, but then they speak one language. They trade in one language.
Thank you, Mr. Atli. So you're referring to the hub and spoke system for halal trade and also harmonization of halal certification process instead of just halal standards. Ms. Amna, what is your recommendation to ISDB and agencies?
Thank you. Actually, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, we already been working with Islamic Development Bank and the reverse linkage division, cooperation and investment, where they have supported us since 2019. And since then, we accelerate our data and also full traceability. We are very, very grateful because of that, because it was very difficult before they came in. What reverse linkage or what Islamic Development Bank has done is that they really approach from the top to down. That means they really empower and educate the ministries in specific countries to change the policies to make sure everybody are in line in order to do halal across the road. So this is where we come in to enable each ministries in that specific countries in order to make it better. What we are today doing is we're still at the very beginning stage. To solve the halal trade is a massive problem. It's not here yet. So I am solving the problem of data. I'm solving the problem of traceability and real information. But there's problem with other things. So for government, for Islamic Development Bank, for me, the more cooperation within all countries and 57 countries, sorry.
Ms. Amna, thank you. So what you say is the importance of alignment of the policy of the different agencies. Finally, Dr. Ilham, what is your recommendation to ROC before we go for some questions to the floor?
Thanks for the time, Marco. Well, I think if you think about the Islamic Development Bank, there's three words here: Islamic Development and Bank. I don't want to talk about the Islamic aspect because we talked about that already a lot. Bank is clear, but I think the development, because that's a task of the IDB to support the development of their member countries. So we are now in the process of what I would call another industrial revolution, the 4.0 revolution. And I think a key slogan that we all know is data is the new oil. As it happens, many of the member countries in the IDB system are countries that have a lot of resources, including a lot of oil. So now we should imagine that we have also a lot of consumers, and those consumers produce and need a lot of data, and they present this data. So I think it is high time for the ISDB to invest into those capabilities, to understand data, and not only rely on providers of services that understand it, but there needs to be a sufficient ability of understanding that very data in order to assist the member countries to develop themselves and to be developed and modern economies.
Dr. Hillman, thank you. I thank you for giving that insight also. So the need for overseas countries to invest in ICT capabilities. I would like to now give an opportunity for maybe somebody to have a question to this esteemed panel. Please, if you have any question, stand up, say your name, from which organization, and ask the question to the panelists. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists. My name is Amir Mir, and I work for the Islamic Development Bank. I think we see the landscape of our member countries. You have the countries which are relatively developed with the technology penetration as well as the level of education which can support. But we have a lot of membership, especially in the rural areas where the technology, cost of the technology, and also use of the technology is still not there. So how we are thinking to bring in all the segment of society to become the part of this technology landscape which is fast evolving, and to benefit from it both in terms of the speed, efficiency, but also the cost effectiveness, reaching out in terms of the financing opportunity, but also the business opportunity what the halal industry offers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. To whom is the question?
I think to all the panelists.
So your question is how to bring it together. Maybe Dr. Ilham, you can give some viewpoint on how to bring it together, all those information.
Yeah, sure. I think the gentleman mentioned here a particular case was the rural part of countries that are member countries. It's about the price point and about the ability to deploy. Well, technology is developing very fast. Right? The price points are lowering and lowering every year, and it is also getting faster to deploy the infrastructure at the same time. Just give you an example. If you talk about connectivity, we don't need to establish all those land-based infrastructure anymore as the only alternative. You have something like in the sky. And think a few years ahead, then we'll probably can get those solutions that we are now having in the urban areas or in the developed part of the country everywhere at a very low cost. Yeah. So technology is, I think, not the issue in the end. It is about the leadership that needs to be aware about those possibilities and the chances, and we need to wisely use it and explain to people what it is so people know that the government is doing the right thing. And it's not only government, I think there's a role to play for the private sector as well, and all of that in collaboration, I think, will bring benefit to the people wherever they are.
Thank you, Dr. El. Any more questions? No, last question? I think we have to, if there's no question anymore, I would like, first of all, to give a thank you to the esteemed panelists. Maybe put your hands together for the panelists. It was a great pleasure to talk about that topic on innovations in the halal industry. I would like to thank you, all of you, for attending this session, and may peace be upon you. Thank you. We can take a photo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marco and the esteemed panelists, for the insightful discussion. With pleasure, I would like now to invite Dr. Ihsan Ubaid, Secretary General of the Standard and Methodology Institute of Islamic Countries, SMIIC, to present his closing remarks. Dr. Ihsan, the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, honorable participants, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm honored to be here today with the distinguished speakers and to deliver my speech in the company of prominent guests gathered to share their knowledge and experience in these important panel and sessions. At outset, please allow me to extend my gratitude to the Islamic Development Bank for their efforts and excellent arrangements made for the organization of this significant event and for their kind invitation. Distinguished participants, as we are all aware, the global halal industry has become a fast emerging sector which is receiving positive response from all parties, hence competitiveness in this new market force simultaneously increase. Every year, we see new growth numbers showing how the halal industry has been shifting from niche to global spotlight, but while getting bigger, the need to make it a regulated or controlled sector in all its aspects also become inevitable. Whether through direct government planning or private initiatives, halal industry is proven to need to be support of every one of us in order to not to leave the fundamental requirements and practices out. Brothers and sisters, around 20 years ago, when we talk about halal, we would not see more than a logo on the products that is written in Arabic to make it seem more trustworthy. 2 decades ago, maybe it was acceptable due to lack of knowledge, but now people are more aware of what they consume, and now this simple logo does not convince us, and it certainly shouldn't. Why? Because we all together witnessed how halal logo was wrongfully used. And with the more technological and developments, with more demands, and with more awareness, everything has changed, so we did halal industry. But what did not change in this is the attempts to degrade halal issue to some particular countries or political developments. Halal certification and use of halal logos are inevitable result of the development of the international trade and the diversification of the halal food technologies. So we are strictly against of undervaluing halal certification and use of halal logos by monopolizing it. Esteemed guests, before CIMIC, everyone was concerned due to lack of the unified halal standards. But even after the establishment of CIMIC and publishing many OIC standards on different halal issues, we still see some people complaining about not having common standards. This is because of the national approach that necessitates the use of guidelines or structure that belong to one single country, which only creates more trade barriers. Distinguished participants, when CIMIC was established in 2010, there was 13 countries which ratified CIMIC statute, and today, alhamdulillah, we are a unity of 47 countries. CIMIC as an OIC institution gets its power from being an intergovernmental organization. In other words, CIMIC means governments, and our standards are developed by these government representatives. Establishment of the CIMIC was surely a cornerstone for reshaping the perception of halal and a direct message to halal industry that a single competent platform authorized by the OIC and unified standards developed by the experts through consensus is our key and overcome the ongoing challenges as well as ensuring halal to be safe hands. For more than a decade, CIMIC has been exerting great efforts to achieve uniformity in standardization and accreditation and certification fields. By 2023, CIMIC has 47 member states spread over 4 continents, from Asia to South America, from Africa to Europe, and it is not surprising that there are certain discrepancies in their systems, structures, and so on. But when we come under CIMIC, they are expected to set aside these differences or only use them to enrich the unity. Brothers and sisters, standards development is not easy task. In order to produce new standards as well as to keep pace with new developments, CIMIC has been working in cooperation with the national standards bodies of member states and through its sustainable partnerships with various international and regional organizations working in the field of standardization. OIC CIMIC standards are professionally prepared by experts of topics in our technical committees, which also operate like as international organizations. To publish a standard from scratch may take around 2 years of hard work and devotion. Technical and Islamic experts come from 4 different continents to prepare these standards. So we have unified standards published upon consensus of CIMIC members, which are shortly says OIC CIMIC standards. CIMIC has published 56 standards so far, and 20 of them are on halal topics. These standards vary from halal food additives, tourism, gelatin, management systems, supply chain, animal feed, etc. And we are very proud to see that our standards are used all over the world. CIMIC as an advanced system for preparing halal standards, our standards are not the product of a country, one country. Our standards do not reflect fatwas of a group or a region. Our standards do not block trade activities among countries. On the contrary, CIMIC has been and will be in the struggle for providing added value and trust to halal products and services with high quality standards developed for production, certification, and accreditation. What we have learned during this period that the real problem was not having unified halal standards, but willingness of the countries to adapt and implement OIC standards. Unfortunately, we observed that since national recognition is favorable for those particular countries, they continue using their national approach or standards. However, by making OIC Global Halal Quality Infrastructure, short the OHAC, operational, we do believe they achieve significant progress in the upcoming period. Very recently, Islamic Forum for Halal Accreditation Bodies, IFHAB, as the designated structure of the quality infrastructure, was granted with affiliated status to OIC during the 49th OIC Council of Ministers, a meeting held in March 2023 in Mauritania. This organization headquarters will be in Mecca Mukarrama region in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This will be the system for the recognition. IFHAB, as a short name, is a platform whose purpose is to develop and maintain mutual recognition arrangement according to OIC standards. This is a very important progress in reaching our goal to have mutual recognition of halal certificates through a trustworthy and professional system. With system, which says one-time certificate, one-time accredited except everywhere. CIMIC is working in close with cooperation with institutions such as ISDB, Internet Academy, ICDT, and considering all our similarities and ambitions in making OIC member states to more competitive in international trade, and will strive more together. Let me now end my speech by extending our deepest thanks to the ISDB for their efforts towards making this event a great success, and by wishing all of us to a productive and stimulating event. May Allah be our guide and lead us the path of continued success. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ihsan. Now I have the pleasure to invite Ms. Latifa Ilbu Abdullawi, the Director General, Islamic Center for Development of Trade, ICDT, to present her closing remarks.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to start my speech by thanking IDB for organizing this very important event and for associating ICDT to participate with you. I would like to congratulate IDB for successfully highlighting the vast and expanding role of the global halal economy for OIC member states. Today's gathering has been an exemplary showcase of not only the potential opportunity, but of real commitment being made through government investments and policies and private sector engagements. At ICDT, a subsidiary organ of OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, we are pleased to hear about the tangible developments in leveraging the global halal trade and investment from many OIC member states. Saudi Arabia Halal Product Development Company is a welcome investment initiative that will not only galvanize Saudi Arabia's halal economy, but benefit the wider OIC member states' halal trade and investment. Indonesia's commitment to operationalize its halal industry growth potential provide a very strong lever for similar regional and global impact. Malaysia's HDC continues to drive local, regional, and global excellence of the halal value chain. Nigeria's halal industry are galvanizing Africa's OIC market member state countries' realization of the opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, the eminent keynote speakers and panelists that we heard today agreed on diagnostic of the halal situation and of the potential this sector presents, and proposed recommendation, insights, and pathway to inspire and empower OIC governments, entities, industries, investors, and innovators to grow OIC's share in halal trade and investment. Proposed recommendation to be examined, explored, and implemented at public and private sector levels should be grouped in four categories that consist of research and innovation, which focus in emerging technologies, finance, and developing human resources. Second issue is the national economic resilience building, which includes localizing halal production and launching accelerator programs, halal economy promotion, and certification and development of certification infrastructures. The other issue is the private sector should be at the heart of this process. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ICDT is welcomes to continue supporting and collaborating to develop trade and investments among OIC in economy halal among OIC member states. Our most important action for last day was the introduction of a report on halal economy, a report that aims to provide public sector and policymakers valuable information to develop and to strive in this sector. We also proposed a dashboard on our website that will also help and support OIC countries, private and level sectors to continue developing this very important sector. Thank you very much again, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Ms. Latifa. I would like now to welcome again on stage Mr. Amir Bukovic to conclude this session. Mr. Amir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, dear guests and participants, esteemed moderators, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to again repeat my appreciation to all the speakers, moderators, panelists for their valuable contribution to the event today, which addressed ways and means for unlocking ISDB member countries' potential to tap into the vast and expanding global halal industry. It is noticeable every time we talk about halal that there is a lot of passion and devotion. So there is a huge potential, and I would like to thank you for participating and attending and sharing your experience and engaging with us in discussions and panel sessions. The statements, thoughts were very insightful, and the panel discussions were constructive, highlighting replicable experiences, success stories, and best practices in promoting halal industry, as well as opportunities and challenges for fostering investment and intra-trade opportunities in halal sector. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the management and staff of Halal Product Development Corporation, HPDC, for partnering with us in organizing this event. Thank you very much. It was a very passionate contribution from your side. We have the chairman and the CEO of the company and valuable leadership of the company with us throughout the event. We look forward for a timely and effective implementation of the MOU and the action plan that will be signed today at 4 o'clock between our both institutions at the closing session and the press conference of the ISDB annual meeting. And I would like to invite everyone to attend this signing ceremony. ISDB stands ready to continue the discussions and cooperation with various institutions participating in this event and the relevant halal organizations. And we will, inshallah, take all necessary steps to put the recommendations and outcomes issued during this event into action. Before ending my closing remarks, I would like to convey a special thanks to interpreters who have been extremely cooperative. Finally, my deepest thanks are of course reserved for the organizing team of ISDB headquarters, KL, CO, TICA, and the Private Sector Forum for their priceless contributions and for running a smooth event. I also thank the MC for a wonderful job you have done. Thank you. Again, I look forward to meeting you again in the future halal events. We will not give up from this direction. It is a huge potential, and I think we will find interest and satisfaction both in our heads, in our hearts, by following this path of fulfilling the needs of the halal industry in our member countries and Muslim communities in non-member countries. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you everyone for being part of this very interesting session. Now we will take an hour break and reconvene at 2 p.m. for the final session of the day, transitioning towards a sustainable future through private-public partnerships, which is going to be another interesting discussion. So see you at 2. Thank you.